You know, sometimes Blizzard writes a story so well that it becomes legendary, and then years later they pick it up, stomp on it, and toss it into the bin. That's Arthas Menethil, the Lich King. The reason all of us want Invincible to drop. Arthas worked because of this one thing. Like I said in my Lich King video, George R. R. Martin once said, the only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself. And Arthas is that quote in plate armor. But then Shadowlands came along and decided, nah, let's make him a candle wisp and let Sylvanas say the last word. Arthas begins in Warcraft 3 as almost boringly good. Golden boy crown prince, trained by Uther, loved by his people, raised with that shiny paladin ideal of protecting the weak, spamming Hammer of Wrath and measuring his DPS on the dummy. The problem is that Arthas doesn't just want to be good, he wants to be effective. He's pragmatic to the point of recklessness, and that's what makes him a believable character. When the plague hits Lordaeron, Arthas does what every anxious overachiever does. He escalates, he burns grain, he disobeys orders, he forces outcomes. He believes the armor is virtue proof. In The Culling of Stratholme, possibly the single best written moment in Warcraft's history, Arthas sees a doomed city and chooses to kill it before the plague does. Uther and Jaina judge him for this, but Arthas goes through with it anyway. Is it monstrous? Yes. Is it understandable? Also yes. That's why it's terrifying and genius at the same time. From then on, Arthas starts to change. He grabs Frostmourne because he thinks a cursed sword has more stats than his hammer. You know it's over. The sword isn't corruption from nowhere. It's the externalization of a decision he already made. Results over everything. That's why Arthas is the way he is. He's not possessed, he's convinced. The heart in conflict finally loses. Once Arthas puts on the helmet of domination, the writing trick doesn't change. It just flips perspective. He's still trying to save his people. He's just redefined people as all of Azeroth under his will. Peace through total control. No more fear and no more plague. He's wrong, but he's not random. And Wrath of the Lich King nails this. Blizzard constructed an entire expansion that doesn't just point at a big bad. It prepares you for him. You see his armies. You see the consequences. He shows up to taunt you early, often, and perfectly in dungeons and raids, and in ICC in the raid when he tells you he let you live to see how strong you could become so he could raise you as a death knight. You believe he would, because it fits the logic. The strongest servants make the best peace. The payoff in ICC works because it closes the loop. Tyrion's speech is corny in the best way. Arthas Menethil shows up for one more ghost out moment, as if Blizzard is obsessed with them. The raid gets its cutscene dopamine, boom, story complete. The Helm of Domination is passed to Borvar to keep the Scourge contained. Curtain closed. If Blizzard had let Arthas there, a clean Greek tragedy, he'd sit forever in the S-tier character hall alongside Illidan. But years later, Blizzard returns to death and cosmic, time-consuming, whatever realm it is. The table was set for Arthas to make his return, and a big payoff. If redemption exists in the afterlife, should he get any, you can feel the potential. And then Shadowlands goes, actually it was mostly the jailer. Also, Frostmourne had your soul in shards. Also, we found a tiny little blue wisp, that might be you, but don't worry. Redemption? No. Resolution? Yeah, no. It's not just the cameo is small, it's that the story choice is small. Arthas becomes a prop in other characters' arcs. He isn't a character you wrestle with. He's a symbol that gets waved around and then folded up. You could argue it's poetic. The monster reduced to nothing. But tragedy isn't about punishment. Tragedy is about recognition. The moment when the character and the audience understands why the fall happened and what it means. We didn't get that. Let's be really honest. People love Arthas because he is us with a worse mask. Most fantasy villains are either cursed, mind-controlled, or evil because the plot says so. Arthas is a guy who tried to save everyone and ended up saving no one. That's storytelling 101. You don't just watch him, you argue with him in your head. So when Shadowlands reframes the Lich King as a jailer DLC, when the iconic villain's agency gets turned into a web of cosmic systems and magic nonsense, we lose what made him special. And when his final moment is a voiceless wisp fading in front of characters who don't have any impact in it at all, it literally falls flat. It's worth pausing on Stratholme though. I will make a video separate for this, because it's proof Blizzard once understood this character down to the bone. You walk street by street, house by house, and you're forced to do what the game made you judge earlier. Kill citizens before the plague gets them. Mechanically, it's a timer. Morally, it's a mirror. Every click is a little betrayal dressed as mercy. That's why Arthas is so beloved, because his story forced the player to feel the contradiction within him. Warcraft rarely gets that intense. When it does, it's unforgettable. That's exactly what it lacks today. Shadowlands needed one scene like that. Not a cameo wisp, but a confrontation. Arthas facing the memory of Stratholme, or something like that. Arthas answering his father's question, "My son, was it worth it?" Even a single line acknowledging that he knows what he became. Instead, the game pretends the most important soul in the franchise's history is better as fertilizer for other people's arcs. In some common defense, Arthas wasn't in control. He was just the victim of Frostmourne, voice lines and ancient runes and a big bold man from cosmic purgatory, the Jailer. The Lich King isn't just one guy. There's Ner'zhul's history, the Helm's Will, the Blade's Whispers, all that good spooky stuff. But Arthas' decisions predates the curse. That's what gives the curse traction. The helmet didn't override a saint. It amplified a prince who had already decided that ends justify means. The reason Wrath of the Lich King endures is that it delivered closure with purpose. There must always be a Lich King. Wasn't just a cool line. It answered the setting's question, what keeps the scourge contained? And the thematic question, what price do we pay to fix what one man broke? Bolvar's sacrifice, reframed power as burden. That's elegant. Instead, it retcons meaning by making the Jailer the master manipulator, who was there since the very beginning, a guy whose nipple is as big as my head. And here's where Blizzard absolutely fumbled the bag. You've got one of the most iconic villains in gaming history, the prince who murdered his own people, betrayed his kingdom, and Shadowlands decided his ending should be a blue wisp floating around for 5 seconds. And to add insult to injury, who gets the final word? Not Jaina? Not Uther, not even Tyrannus in some ghostly My Son callback. No, it's Sylvanas, the character Blizzard had already spent 2 expansions rewriting into an overpowered Merisu, and her line is this.
Begone then, Arthas Menethil. May the last whisper of your name fade and be forgotten.
That's it, that's the send-off. No confrontation about Stratholme, no reckoning with Uther, no final spark of humanity for Jaina to see. Just lol, fade away mate. And it's not even clever irony, it's a slap in the face to what made Arthas matter. The whole point of a tragedy is that we do remember. The fall leaves scars and the lessons stick. To say fade and be forgotten is basically Blizzard saying we don't want to write this anymore. Please stop asking about him. But we players don't forget, we never will. He was the story that taught Warcraft how to be more than orcs versus humans. He was the contradiction, the heartbreak, the George R. R. Martin heart in conflict with itself. You don't just say bye-bye with a one-liner from a character who didn't even know him when he was alive. We got a blue mote quietly extinguished in a room full of characters who treat him like a law exhibit. The Jailer was behind everything, the nipple guy was behind it all. It was nonsense. If you're going to open a door to the afterlife, you can't walk past the franchise's most important character. And why this matters is literally everyone has heard of the Lich King. From my mum to the guy that serves your coffee at 9 AM in the morning. You cannot disrespect a character with such rich history as the Lich King. And people wonder why they don't respect Blizzard's storytelling anymore. Arthas is the best proof Blizzard ever wrote that the genre can do nuance, which is why seeing him reduced to a blue dot that goes poof hurts so much. At the end of the day, Arthas Menethil is still one of the best written characters Blizzard ever produced. A prince with the right ideals and the wrong methods. A villain whose arguments were almost convincing. A tragedy that taught players something about themselves. Wrath closed that story beautifully. Shadowlands opened it again and then took a dump on it. Maybe one day Blizzard revisits death in a cleverer plan. Maybe they won't. But if World of Warcraft wants to feel grounded again, it needs to remember why Arthas worked in the first place. The human heart in conflict with itself. Anyway, that's my case. If you disagree, I'll see you in Dornogal, 1v1 me. If you like this breakdown and want more, hit subscribe. It helps the video get recommended to more Warcraft sickos like us, and it tells me to keep going. Thank you for watching.